So Rangers are through to face PSV again next week at Ibrox. Peter Grant is here. Barry Ferguson, you said it was going to be tough. Rangers drew last night and they're through.
Yeah, listen, European away games are always tough, Paul. But I thought Rangers got the job done. First half, there was a few hairy moments, no doubt about that. Jack Butland pulled off a couple of brilliant saves. And then I think there was a few harsh words said at half time, no doubt, with Michael Beale. And I thought the second half, they came out, they were more aggressive, they were on the front foot, and they certainly deserved to be into the next round. And this is going to be a cracker against a very, very strong PSV team.
James Tavernier got the goal that counted for Rangers. What would you say to people who've criticised him year after year?
Well, he comes up with big moments, yeah. Paul. He might not be having the best game, but one thing that I've got to defend James Tavernier on, he never hides. He keeps going, and it was a great ball in from Borna Barisic, and Tavernier coming in at the back post with a brilliant header to get that equaliser. So he scored at the right time, and the most important thing is, Paul, what I says right at the start of the show, it was a job done. They've made themselves a few £1 million, and now they need to focus on the games ahead. And the next game against PSV, I watched them last week against Sturm Graz, and they're a quality outfit. So Rangers really need to be on their mettle if they want to progress into the group stages of the Champions League.
Peter, it's a step up, isn't it, against the Dutch Giants next week, who are already saying they're out to get revenge. I see they went on X or Twitter last night saying that. Time for revenge.
Look, it's easy to talk, Paul. We've all done that before, and we've all seen it before. But the one thing I would say is, I think that you can get at their back line. I think their forwards and middle to front is very strong. They can cause you problems. They've got two good wide players who are very attack minded but with good quality. You know, they've got De Jong through the middle, who I felt when he went off in the game last year, I thought that was a big help to Rangers, I must admit, because he's a handful. I know he get a lot of criticism, but for the type of player he is, he's a leader of that group. And as I say, from middle to front, I think they're a strong side, but I definitely think you can get at them defensively.
And Barry, there's a young player they've got on loan, Malik Tillman. It's funny old game football, isn't it? Yeah, he is, certainly is. It's funny game, isn't it? Football, he's only just left weeks ago, but he's coming back.
Yeah, it's a weird old game, the game of football. Listen, he's a quality young player. You've seen parts of that last season, certainly when he was in a Rangers strip, moments of quality. I think PSV have done really well to get him, but they've got other players, Paul, as I said. Granty mentioned the experience of De Jong through the middle. They've got the two wide players, as Granty said as well. Bakayoko, who is lightning quick in the right hand side. He likes to come inside on his left foot, and then you've got Lang in the left side, who's a bundle of tricks. So it will be tough, but they're beatable, PSV. Rangers showed it last season, but I'm sure Michael Beale will want a bit more improvement over the coming days to make sure they do the job and get into that group stages.
What about Danilo's sitter? And it's easy to say it when you're here in the studio, but Barry, was it a Van Vossen?
No, listen, you expect centre forwards, number 9s, to put them in the back of the net, no doubt. And when you're a number 9, you want to start hitting the back of the net, because that gives you the confidence. So yeah, he'll be disappointed. 9 times out of 10 he puts that in the back of the net. He's misjudged it. It's a bad miss, but you need to move on. One thing I will say about him, never had the best of games, but tell you what, he worked hard for the team, so that's a positive. But as new forwards coming into the club, I know they've scored a goal apiece. They want to start scoring on a regular basis, so they can get that confidence.
And Peter, what about Cifuentes? We've seen him now twice. You're a midfield player, different kind of player, but he's impressive, isn't he?
I've been impressed with him. You know, he's got good energy. I mean, you'd be up to speed because he's been playing, which is important, and you can see that. And listen, we've got to say that about the Rangers team. They've not been playing at that standard of games, even though you've been trying to do that in pre-season. You're trying to get a fitness as well. It's completely different. So these games are helping them getting fitter and fitter. But Cifuentes put a fantastic ball in. I think it was nowhere near a Van Vossen. Let's be sure on that. I think the ball's come across. I'm not sure if he's a left footer or a right footer, but he played it like a left footer. It wasn't a natural left footer, and he's tried to concentrate and guide the ball down. Yes, it's a big chance, but it's not a glaring miss. As I say, it was a fantastic ball. And the thing for me is, I still think don't think they've got the balance right. You know, I genuinely think that. You've seen that in the first half. You know, when you're playing Cantwell, whether you're playing a diamond or whether you're playing for the left, playing the two behind one, if it's not a natural position for them, and you're talking about Tillman, I felt that was a problem for him last year. you ended up doing jobs defensively. You know, you've got Raskin out on the left hand side as you did in the first half. You know, in the right side, they played two wide guys and they just kept running up and down that side because Cantwell wants to get in and get involved in the game. So any time you lose the ball, the space is out in that position. And we spoke about it in pre-season. So I'm sure it's something you have to, because if you're playing against PSV next week and we're talking about the two wide players being exceptionally good, you know, and direct, you'll be needing people that can help your fullbacks in that area. So they're areas you will get exposed against the better teams, and that's what you've got to be very careful of. And that's hopefully Rangers learn that from the fact taken through this leg. They make sure that they're not in that position next week, because I don't think they'll be so lucky with the chances they gave up.
Rangers fans, call now 0808 17 17 700. You can speak to the legendary captain of Rangers, Barry Ferguson, and the legendary Celtic player Peter Grant is with us, with me, Paul Cooney, and it's a £4.3 million game last night, but it could be the doorway, Barry, to 20, 30 million pounds.
Yeah, that's also important. That's money that's needed at the club, so they had to make sure they got that. But as I said, always going away from home in Europe, Paul, it's always difficult. I mean, I've had past experience when you go into games and you don't know too much about them. And they do surprise you, because to be fair to Servette, they had some really good players, dangerous players. So it was all about making sure they navigated their way through this round and make sure they get into the big one next week, which can hopefully generate, 20-25 million pound. So I think the Rangers players know how important the double header with PSV is going to be.
Peter Grant, I'm just showing there a picture. It's not officially from Celtic, but it's on some of the Celtic fans' accounts. Welcome to Celtic, Gustav Lagerbielke, there in the Celtic strip. So it looks as though he's there this afternoon. We knew he was over for the medical. The deal's just about done. What kind of player are Celtic buying?
I don't really know much about him, Paul. I'll be telling no lies. You know, I think obviously Brendan's looked at him when he's come in, because the scouting network in the background will have been doing all the work. Brendan will have looked at it and probably rubber stamped it. I think that's important. He obviously realises, I mean, I've been Naravsky, whatever you call it, Navrosky. Yep. I thought he's done very well. He uses the ball very well. You know, he's a young man. For a young man, he knows his positional play is good. So I think Brendan will be looking at all that. Does that suit the way he's going to play going forward? You know, and he's rubber stamped it. So I think that's important, because you do need strength and depth throughout the group. We always spoke about that last year. We always felt Celtic were the strongest group of players. You know, never mind the first 11, the next 11 were all strong as well. We're always fit. You see, this time now with a couple of injuries, you know, and it just all of a sudden it becomes a wee bit, we need extra bodies and whatever. And I think Brendan always knew that, and I think he was wanting to give people enough time, you know, to get an opportunity to assess the boys that was there and say, right, okay, they're going to go forward with me, or they're maybe just going to be bit parts, and if I can replace them with better quality. And that's obviously what he's assessing at this moment in time, and obviously he's seen that and he's rubber stamped with the work that the guys have done in the background.
Celtic also looking to extend the contracts of Rio Hatate and Lil Abada. That's no surprise, but what's the message behind that, Peter?
I think it's so important, you know, because you want your best players to extend it. And I think Barry and myself and yourself were talking about it off air. You were sitting saying, well, Celtic have done that exceptionally well. They'll find out if the boys want to stay here, want to be here, and if they are, they'll get that extension. If they don't want to be here, right, okay, we'll move you on quickly, because we want to make that financial, not being into that last year of your contract, which we're earning nothing from you, and Celtic will move them on. I'm hoping both stay for sure. You know, I'm a real fan of Abada. I must admit, I like Hatate, of course, but I'm a real fan of Abada. As a young man, I think he plays that position really well. And for a wide player, we're talking about in the box to score goals, his work ethic to get at that back post, you know, and he's a very good finisher for a young man. And I think he would only get better, because Brendan loves his wingers, as you know, sure. and he likes to play that way. And I think it's so important in the modern day game, having that balance. And I've been really impressed with him. And he missed a lot of last season, but still his numbers were still very good.
Barry, you like both players?
Yeah, they're very good players, no doubt about it, and I think they're important players for Celtic. But I think Celtic are clear on, if players don't want to extend, Celtic will do business and try and move them on and bring in replacements. I think they're going into the final 2 years of their contract, both players, and I think that's a good way to operate, Paul.
What do you think of Daniel Podence, the Wolves player? Scored, was it 12 goals last season? Wasn't in the squad pre-season or at the weekend for Wolves. Again,
he's another player that I've only seen glimpses of, Paul. But listen, he's played in the Premier League. He's obviously he can play at a high level. So I'm sure over the next few weeks Celtic will be linked with so many players. And as I said, I still think that Celtic will bring in 2 or 3 more players to boost their squad.
6 goals last season, Peter.
But then I really like him, Paul. When I've seen him, he's been very attack minded, obviously, but great power. He's got fantastic legs. He puts me in mind of a guy I used to work with, actually, Sergio Rebrov. Can you remember him?
What a player.
Well, he puts me in mind of him. That's what he put me in mind of. But Sergio was more of a striker in about that 10 position. But he could play off the side of the pitch as well, where Podence mostly plays. But listen, I've seen him some fantastic games in the Premier League, and a player of that quality, I'm surprised, that he's getting linked with moving up here, because I don't know what his finances would be at Wolves and whatever, and how much it would cost you. Maybe a loan deal would be the best way to look at that one and see how it works out. But listen, there's no doubt about his quality, and he can score a goal as well.
They're saying they would want 12 million, depends who's in. But would Celtic stretch to 10 million? Could you see them going 10 or 11 million?
Yeah, well, again, because the business plan has been excellent.
Yep.
They got money obviously for Jota they probably didn't expect or didn't probably want the offer. But once you get an offer like that, you can't knock it back.
You're just back from the Middle East, aren't you?
Yeah, I had a fantastic time over there, big Doc Ian McGuinness. He's a fantastic man. Great entertainment.
He tunes in, doesn't he?
Great entertainment. No, he was different class, and he was a great host.
Great,
a fantastic host.
He looks after you all, Barry, doesn't he?
Yeah. He's one of the most busiest guys I know. To be honest with you, but no, listen. First and foremost, brilliant doctor. He knows his stuff, and he's very helpful for me throughout my career, and also with my boys, and same with Granty's boys. Anything you need, he's on the end of the phone, and he'll do whatever he can to try and help you. But just trying to get me to buy a drink a night, that's a bit tough.
I don't think that would be
put
a
his
problem.
phone down for 5 minutes and then be quite happy.
Is that right? Is it one of these ones? Yeah.
I'd be quite happy if he put his phone down for 5 minutes.
But I know we get the odd message there from Qatar, from the doc. Can he help Hatate? We're waiting to see if Hatate is going to be out for a number of weeks, and will he be back in time for September the 3rd? That's been reported in the Daily Mail that he might be, the injury he's got.
Yeah. Well, listen, Hatate's a terrific player, and I think it's one of these ones, you need them all available, and we talk about pre-season is so important, and it's not injuries, they can't be prevented for whatever reason. You're working really hard, you work completely different, you're playing games on top of it, trying to get that fitness, you're travelling the world nowadays. We used to be going to Sweden or whatever, now you're travelling the world, so there's a lot of things going on, and then they've got to get a bit of downtime, and they're going back to see their family, so it's travel, so all these things catch up with you, and then trying to play games of football. And that's why we're saying, listen, you're talking about Kevin De Bruyne out for 4 months, and Guardiola's going on about the top players are playing too many games, and there's not enough space in between the games, and it's something we may have to look at. But these guys people say they're well paid, but it doesn't stop you getting bad injuries, and unfortunately you've seen it in the last few weeks. I think there was 5 on Saturday, was it ACLs? I've never known anything like that. It's quite incredible actually in the top games. So that just shows you how many games and how highly strong these boys are.
Celtic fans, Lagabilka is in town. We're looking for it to come out any moment. What are you thinking then about the season? Top of the table so far, and still over a month before you go into the Champions League proper. Rangers just 180 minutes or 120 minutes these days, 130 minutes away from the Champions League. But it's a big if. It's PSV next week. Rangers fans, what are you thinking? Celtic fans, what do you reckon? 0808 17 17 700. Barry, where do you stand on it? I see PSV are getting the league game called off again. I think it happened last year as well for them, but Rangers won. So one of their games is being rested so that they don't have to play too many
weekend.
games. Yeah, it's saying it's coming soon. Reschedule the league fixture following the first leg, so the following week. So it's a week this weekend, not this weekend, the following weekend.
Yeah, as you mentioned there, that happened the previous game, and it never made a difference because Rangers went through. But in terms of the game, see the game at the weekend, for instance, in the cup against Morton, I think you'll see probably 11 changes for
As
the
many,
Rangers team.
yeah.
I think he will. Because if you look at the size of the Rangers squad, there's still guys like Sterling, who I thought done pretty well when he came on last night.
You like him when he came on? Yeah.
Right back, Balogun, centre half, alongside, off the top of my head, Leon King, who's not played a lot of football. Young Devine might come in and play left back. Then you've got Dow, you've got Lundstrom,
Roof,
Kemar Roof. Yeah, you've got Dessers, who never started the game. So these names that I'm saying, that's still a strong
you look at
Rangers
Hadji,
team.
you've mentioned
Hadji as well.
Hadji's-
There's Hadji, so I could see there being 11 changes for the game, and because these guys who have played the vast majority of games have played a lot of football over the last couple of weeks, and sometimes when you take a wee step out, just let the legs recover, and get back to full training on the Monday, making sure you're mentally and physically prepared for the
You wouldn't have been
PSV
able to
game.
say that last year, Baz. You know, you wouldn't have been able to say that with the amount of changes that was getting made, you know.
Yep.
So you can say that Rangers in a stronger position because of that. You know, like Lundstrom didn't play, all these guys. So if they're fully fit, you know, whether you sell them or not, you know, it gives them an opportunity to play matches and let other people see them if they want to buy them. But the other boys, but it also lets you know Rangers have got a stronger group of players. Okay, I think they're top heavy up the top end of the pitch. You've got a lot of players up here where there's not a lot they can do for middle back the way. I still think there can be improvement there. But it's getting the balance of that system. Is it something else Maker looks at again saying, well, I need to get this right, because you get into the big games, you get one or two chances, but you don't get away with it all the time.
Sure.
And I still think like say Cantwell and I'll not want to play that position. Tillman, you could see, didn't want to really do that last year because they're predominantly more guys that's going to help out in attack,
creative,
you know, and creative, and you don't want to take that strength away from them, you know. So try to get that balance right. And I can see what he's trying to do. Listen, we're talking about he's his blueprint to Liverpool, sort of what they try to do. Well, you're saying last night you had one full back crossing, the other one scoring. So that's what Liverpool done quite a lot of. So he would say that would work, you know what I mean? But I think the balance with the front three has given a hell of a lot of work for your inside midfield players. And I can tell us as been central midfield players, we wouldn't like to be doing the role that Raskin's got to leave that middle of the pitch and go away and chase it right back. That wouldn't be for us. You know,
he likes Raskin. So do you, Barry, don't you? Raskin does a power of work.
Yeah, listen, he's a good player. There's no doubt about it. He's clearly impressed since he's come in, and I thought the second half he was really strong. I thought he was good alongside Cantwell. I thought Barisic, who's come in for a fair bit of criticism over the last couple of weeks, I thought he looked really good last night, and obviously Butland with his saves. But I just thought in general terms it was just important, and I think this will give this group of players a confidence boost getting through against PSV. And naturally when you come up against stronger and better opponents, you tend to lift your game even more. And obviously with PSV coming in and saying things on social media, get that up on the board and get them wound up and making sure they put PSV out again. That's what I would be doing.
Time for revenge. 0808 17 17 700. Want to ask both of you. Jack's been on. Rangers would love to be straight into the Champions League, but will they take something from these tough games? They're not a great team last night, Servette, but they're a good team. Will it help them thinking about September the 3rd in the fact that they're playing better opposition than they would normally meet in Scotland?
Will it help?
Yep. Will it help them?
Generally, if you come up against better opposition and you have a number of games, it does generally help, because it's a new team and he's trying to knit them together as quickly as possible, and it's never going to be 100% perfect. You could see that in the games. There's some parts of the game you're like that, great, and then other parts that will go back to Saturday against Livingston. The first 20 minutes, 25 minutes, I thought they were really good, energetic, and then that middle part of the game, they come off it a wee bit. He makes the substitutions, it fires them up again. So listen, it's a work in progress, but again up here, I keep saying it, you don't get much time because people are expecting them to hit the ground running as quickly as possible. But coming up against better opposition will certainly help them going forward.
Peter, from a Celtic point of view, Jack's asking as well, Aberdeen, that was quite tough at the weekend, but they played really well. Are they going to get the kind of test that they will need before they play Rangers and before they go into the Champions League?
Listen, when you're playing for Celtic or Rangers, everything's a test, Paul. Not just physically on the pitch and the games you're coming up against, mentally, because you've gone into every game, you have to win. You have to play well. And if you drop below even winning, you know, is not enough, because the standards has got to be kept. You're playing under that pressure. Barry's saying you've got to learn while winning. Up here, that's the difference. And if your Rangers were to get knocked out for last night, for instance, it would have been a total disaster for them and the criticism that come with it. Then, and you're trying to build a team and bring players in, and that's why I've spoken about the cup competition before the league starts. We're putting in the lower level where managers don't have the money to go out and spend in players. They're trying to build a team, because if they don't do well in the League Cup, they're getting criticism for it. You know, they're wanting to lose their jobs and whatever. And we've seen it even at the start of this season. So with Celtic and Rangers, you take it tenfold. You know, so you're trying to learn, but they're getting game legs. That's important. For Celtic, that was a real big result going to Pittodrie at the weekend, because spoke about it the week before, how Barry's teams were going to be competitive, aggressive, and they played in their strengths. You know, they played in their strengths and made it difficult. But I thought Celtic, as I say, it was a fantastic result, especially going there early in the season. You know, when you're learning as well, it's a new manager. You know, who's getting to know his players. Okay, some of the players have been there for a while now, but Brendan's only had 3 of them, and I think maybe there was only one started, was Callum, for the last time he was there. So all these things there's a learning thing. Who can handle that? Who can handle that pressure of going and being, after winning a treble, can you go and do it again? Because that's the standard that's set, and you've got to do that in every single match you're asked to play in.
Can you handle Peter Grant? And
Do you know
Barry
what
Ferguson?
I was thinking at half time last night?
What?
Could I handle coming in here?
When you,
That's
when they
it.
scored.
Yeah, well, I was. I'll be honest with you. Watching the game, I was worried in the first half. There was no doubt, and I'm thinking to myself, I wonder what's going on in that dressing room. And I heard Michael Beale's interview with Rangers TV, and he says there was a few choice words said, and sometimes you've got to that's got to happen. And certainly they came out in the second half, and that was much better. That was a team that was determined to get into the next round against PSV.
Barry Ferguson's smiling. He's just been at the hygienist. I hope she was a Rangers fan, Barry.
I'll need to question that. My gums are killing me.
I did think about you last night. I thought, well, when they scored their first, if they'd got a second, I thought, right, tomorrow night, it would have been a pile on, wouldn't it? The Rangers fans would have been.
There was stages. I've got to be honest with you. I was worried, and then at half time, you're thinking, right, is there something going to happen? And certainly there was a difference. There's no doubt in my mind about it. And as I said, you've got to remember, Granty's the same. We've played in European games away from home, and whether people saying they're only a good team, and I get that they're not a top team, Servette, but you still got to get the job done. And certainly Rangers showed that there was a bit of aggression in them, there was a bit of determination in them to make sure they get through it the next round.
Here's a Rangers fan on the line. Paul, good evening.
Evening, Paul. Thanks for letting me on. I just wanted to share my thoughts about the game last night. I think there's no easy game in Europe, to be honest. I mean, regardless of where Servette are, I went to the first leg. So my point was, I think delighted overall we're through. I'll be honest with you, I expect us to beat PSV. I don't know about this time around. I think the guy Peter Boss, I think, is the manager over there. That guy's got a bit of pedigree. I know he's been sacked for a couple of his clubs, but I think he took Bayer Leverkusen through in 2018 or something when we played them. So I think PSV are a different animal this time. But I'll be honest with you, I think we've punched above our weight over the years since Gerrard came to Ibrox, to be honest, and it's amazing. I feel we've had amazing journeys throughout Europe.
So why not again then, Paul? Why not next week?
I know that sounds... Listen, I want to win every game. If Rangers played 20 wins, I'd want to win that, right? But I just think I wouldn't be as disheartened. We've got £5 million for that game. My focus is I want to win everything. I want to win everything, but my priority is taking the league title away from Celtic, but guaranteed. Do you know what I mean? I would be...
Barry, what would you say to that then? So he wants to win the game, but he's saying, look, it shows you how huge last night was for Rangers to get to the next leg. Yeah,
and I've got to be respectful because I've watched PSV now in a couple of occasions, and they are a very, very good team. You're coming up against a European class opposition. That's the way I would put it. Is it going to be difficult? Of course it is, but Rangers have got to go in with the mindset is that they've got to try their utmost to get into that Champions League. Now, I'm not saying Rangers are a Champions League team and they're going to go and get through the group. And well, I'm just thinking about the finances and going forward as a club. I think it would help them hugely. So the question is, what you asking me, Champions League or league title?
No, I will ask it now.
I'm with Paul. I'm taking the league title all day long.
Rather than the 40 million in the Champions League.
Yeah, I'm taking the league title.
100%.
The Rangers board will not be happy with that, but I'm taking the league title.
100%. It's what you do at home is the most important thing. Europe's a bonus for Celtic and Rangers, no matter what, because you see the finances that's going on nowadays. It's way beyond. And Rangers' remarkable run a few years back was incredible, and you've got to give great credit for that with some fantastic performances. But we spoke about it last year, you know, with the big games coming to Glasgow, and the Wednesday night, it was brilliant. You know, Real Madrid one night, X, Y, and Z, Liverpool the next.
Liverpool.
Exactly. But he's right. But I'm a wee bit different at PSV. I think they're good from middle to front. I'm not so sure at the back. I think there's chances there.
They're beatable.
I
They're
definitely.
beatable.
And we've got to remember, you're not playing names all the time. You see PSV, it's no PSV with all the superstars.
Yeah.
They lost a few players as well. Rangers have got some new boys in. They're more than capable of getting a result. They'll not be looking forward to coming to Glasgow, vice versa. And you know how difficult it can make it be. But if you're saying the choice over the peace, I'm absolutely sure Rangers, if you asked all the Rangers fans, they'd be saying they would take grabbing the title away from Celtic. That's what they would desperately want to do.
But my first question...
I have no fear of coming up against PSV. I'm just being
Right,
respectful. I've watched them. They're a very good team. There's no doubt in my mind about that. They've got dangerous players that can hurt you. But on the flip side of that, I think Rangers have as well. So go and give it your best shot and see where it takes you. And hopefully where it takes you is into the Champions League group stage. If that doesn't happen, you're into Europa League, and then your focus goes on to obviously domestically. But that's your focus for the first day of pre-season. When you're sitting in that team meeting, up the top of the board, number one priority is league title.
Yeah,
But you could have both. You
Yeah,
could
of course.
get the title and-
You always have to be greedy.
Of course.
You've got to want to write everything.
Because it's great. I mean,
You've got to
made
write
the
first.
point.
You've got to write first all the time.
Liverpool, Napoli, Ajax, all these big teams coming to Ibrox. It's brilliant. It's great. It's what the fans want to see. You want to see the best players, the best coaches, the best managers. But ultimately, your bread and butter is taking the title back off Celtic. That's got to be your number one priority.
Because that gets you without the games that you've got to play just now, remember. So all of a sudden you get straight in to the Champions League as Celtic are doing. And that's vital. And that's why it's so important you win your own. Because then you don't know when you get into the league setup. The one thing I would take for Celtic last year under Ange was the fact that they tried to have a go in every game. I know they ended up getting turned over in some games and they were unfortunate in other games. But they tried to have a go, and I think that's what you've got to use it for. Because if you're going to beat a team with Modric and Cruises and all that, you have to be playing exceptionally well, because you know you've not got the talent of them. But you have to be an exceptional team, not an individual, because you don't have the individuals like them. But so you've got to be an exceptional team. That's when your support and everything come into it. So to get into that position without all these games and playing PSV and Servette with a sweat on all the time, you have to win your league. And then that takes that all away from you.
I'm going to be greedy. I want Champions League group stages. I want the league title.
Yeah.
I want the League Cup and the
Absolutely.
Scottish Cup as well. There you go.
Of course.
Are you pleased to hear, Paul, that the manager gave them pelters at half time? Michael Beale, he said on Rangers TV that, what were the words, Barry? That
Yeah, there was a few choice words.
Choice words.
And sometimes you've got to do it. I still think there's a place for that. When players, when you need to get them up, they had to realise that they had to come out and give a different 45 minutes. And I thought it was much better. That's what you want to see for Michael Beale's Rangers team. And I think he was more happy with that.
Paul, do you feel more positive about the next couple of weeks with PSV after hearing Barry and Peter?
Aye, no, listen, brilliant feedback. I guess another wee point I just want to ask.
Yeah.
You know, Barry, Peter being professionals and whatnot. Might sound daft, but I've picked up in a few games. I was at the first leg, as I said. I was down at the southeastern coast. I was down, Barry. So I'll tell you, Tavernier, and I've been on here before, and
Yep.
I've kind of been hard on him. I'm telling you, he was getting absolutely roasted by the section I was sitting in. So this is not just coming from me, right? I'll tell you what was frustrating. The guys were echoing what I was thinking. He was running over to the other side of the pitch to take a throw in, and I'm like, can we not speed the game up? They're down to 10 men. Hammer them. And what was frustrating the life out of everybody was, he ran over to the other end of the pitch to take the throw in. He would throw it in. We lost it within about the first touch. Why did people have to take a set throw in? What's the purpose of that?
I think you made a good point here, because if you watched the game last night, Paul, I don't know if you see right away as the game started, Rangers got a throw in and the camera panned onto Michael Beale just after it, and he was sort of saying, we've just given the ball away. He was actually doing the throw in and showing you what he was talking to his coach, whatever he was talking about. So it's something they must have worked on, you know. So there's a small detail comes into all that, and that's what we're saying is supporters and that, we probably don't understand that at times, because the manager's done a tactic and the players carrying out the tactic that the manager's asked them, you know. And I understand what you're saying, they're a man down and whatever, but sometimes it can become too hurry, scurry, if you understand what I'm trying to say. You look at the first leg, I think the keeper he was either in great position, every ball that got struck at him was right down his throat, and he had a couple of great saves. If Rangers end up winning 3 or 4, you say, well, the chances they got that could have happened. And that's football, unfortunately, you know. But I think you've sometimes got to. I looked at Michael Beale last night, as I said, the first throw-in was given away and he wasn't happy at all. So it's obviously something tactically that he's asked to go and do that for. And that's what I'm saying. Supporters sometimes criticise players, but they're only doing the job that the manager has asked them.
However, Paul, who scored for Rangers last night?
My mate was laughing at me and he went, mother mate texted me and he went, what were you saying earlier?
Exactly. James Tavernier.
Yeah, it's weird what Paul's saying. At half time, older son, I was sitting watching the game with him, and he was saying that Tavernier's getting absolute dogs abuse pelters on social media, because I'm not on social media. I'm the same as you, Granty.
I forget that.
I don't think it would be good for me on it, to be honest with you, but he does come in sometimes when you've got that armband. They have a go at you more often than not. But I've got to be honest with you, he does well for me. He does. And when he's having difficult games or having tough moments within a game, he generally does come up with the answer. And he did that last night.
I think, Barry, we've always said, I'm a critic on the other side of it, because I think you've got to remember you're a better defender first. And I think that's the biggest problem. In big games, he's been caught out at the back post, and he's not defended the back post exceptionally well. His numbers going forward, there'll be no right back in world football probably scored as the amount of goals and whatever he's done.
Yeah, and he was brave last night with that, wasn't
absolutely,
he?
Absolutely.
The header, he was brave.
Yeah,
Paul,
he did. Listen, he's one of the best at doing that.
Yep.
Coming in at the back post. I think if you go back over the years, the amount of goals he scored for that era, I get it. I get number one, when you're put in at a right back, first and foremost, you've got to make sure you defend. And it's not one of his strongest attributes, but going forward, he does some brilliant things for Rangers, there's no doubt about it. And I would say that about Barisic on the left side. Going forward, he whips in an unbelievable ball at times. One of the best deliveries is in Scotland, but defensively, he gets caught out sometimes.
Stephen McGinn called it right last night on here. He said it's going to be a draw, and the scorer for Rangers, he said 1-1, and it would be James Tavernier. Paul, your final point.
Aye, thanks for the back in, Paul. Aye, 2 wee points just to say very quickly.
Said one.
I would like to see Sterling just behind Tavernier, push Tavernier up a wee bit more.
Okay.
And my last point, just to finish off with Barry. Barry, in my eyes, you were a fantastic captain. I don't think, I'm not being disrespectful to Tavernier, but I think we need somebody in your mould to be the next Rangers captain. And one name I've got is Nicholas Raskin. I thought he had an outstanding game last night.
Okay, Barry, what would you say?
Yeah, he's one of my favourites, Paul. I've got to be honest with you, since they brought him in January. It took him a few weeks to get up to speed, which is a natural thing that happens. But I do like him. I do. I think he's a good footballer, no doubt about it. He wants the ball all the time. He takes up great wee angles. His first thought is always kind of play that ball forward. And he's got a wee bit of aggression in him as well, which I like.
Paul wants to make him captain now, though.
Yeah, in time I think he could be. But my only worry is if Raskin keeps producing very good performances, I think Rangers could struggle to keep a hold of him. And I think it'll be the same with Cifuentes as well. I don't know what Paul thinks, but I've only seen him now. That's a couple of games. I think Rangers have got are going to have, should I say, a top midfield in their hands, because again, he looks if he can handle the physical side of the game, but also on the ball. I like him. He wants it. He's not scared to make a mistake. And always what I like watching midfielders is, if they do give the ball away, how quickly do they want it back? And they two players that I've just mentioned want it back straight away, even if they lose possession of it.
I take those points on Cifuentes and Raskin, but if you took the captaincy away from...
I don't think it will happen. No, we spoke about this last week. I can't see it happening. I think if it was ever going to happen, it would be during the close season.
I think you would have to sell James then. I think he would have to go. It's not a Harry Maguire situation, you know, in the respect to that. He's playing every week. His numbers are massive in the respect going forward. You know his problems defensively. I think you'd need to be saying that's curtains for him. You'd be moving him out the door, because it doesn't matter. He's still in the same dressing room. The players look at you differently, and they'll have a wee bit of kidology with you and a wee bit of banter. you know, and you can imagine him leaving the captain's armband up and all that. And that you can have a bit of fun with that, but deep down, it's hurting you. You know, and I don't think there's a place to do that. Unless you put him out of the team and out of the squad and sell him, I think you've just got to ride with that at the moment in time, because the young man Raskin gets on with his job anyway. You know, he's one of these characters as if to say, right, okay, I'm built for this. It's not a problem for me. And Barry's made the point about losing these players. But that's great, because we spoke about that with Celtic. Listen, if they play exceptionally well and the top teams come and look for them, it means you're doing your job right. You know, and they're performing at their highest level, and that's what you've got to accept. And that's probably something Rangers have not done, because we talked about. I go back to Morella's.
Everyone knows that. You're not allowed to mention him anymore.
You know what I'm saying? But you talk about that, and it's a completely different, characters you're getting, and
Barry?
that's important.
Can I just? He made a good point as well. I was actually speaking to my son again about this when Sterling came on. I think that could be an option going forward. Sterling playing at right back and James Tavernier playing one further forward. There's no doubt he could play there easily, but I like the look of Sterling. I do. I've heard a few people talk about him. I've seen a few interviews, and he looks the part. I know it's early days, but he looks like a defender, if you know what I mean. That defends first and foremost. So I think that could be an option for Michael Beale going forward with Sterling in at right back and James Tavernier push one up.
Would you think it would help to balance him if he played the back three with James
I
out
think
there and Barisic, because you're saying they're very good going forward.
I think it would suit.
And it gives
Tavernier
you two strikers. It gives you the two strikers which he wants to play with.
Honestly, Grant, I said that. I mean, I didn't think it was going to be the team, but you says give me an idea of your team, and I went with a back three. I think in time that could be the way that Rangers would go. Just for talking's sake, it would be Suter, Sterling, Balogun or Golson.
Absolutely.
3 out of that 4, and James Tavernier and Barisic and wing backs, where I think that would suit them to a T.
Rangers are through. Thanks, Paul, for that call. 0808 17 17 700. Celtic fans, we've got Matt O'Reilly next. So a big win for Rangers overall last night on aggregate, and then they'll face a team with an even bigger aggregate. 7-2 it was, wasn't it, Barry, for PSV? It's going to be some couple of games coming up. The first one next week at Ibrox.
Yeah, looking forward to it. These are the games, as I said, that you want to play in, and obviously there's a few things getting said at this moment in time, Paul, for the PSV side, but that next week will be a cracker at Ibrox. There's no doubt about it, because as I said, they've got dangerous players that can hurt you, but also, as Grant had mentioned, defensively they're not, I wouldn't say they're bad or poor, but they're gettable.
Absolutely. No, they lost a few players, Paul. You've got to remember that as well. So they've lost a few players as well, and he's correct. Boss is a very good coach. He's at Ajax and whatever, and he's had a few good ones, and he's had a couple of kicks in the teeth like all coaches do have. But there's no doubt he knows his European football. He's a top coach, but at the end of the day, the players have got to go on the pitch and perform. You know, and it's a big game, and he knows it. He'll understand that coming to Ibrox will be something he'll be preparing them for. He knows the noise is going to be there, and some people handle that and some people don't handle it so well. And we always talk about different things now, about VAR and all the refereeing's completely different in Europe, you know, so certain things. So all these wee things come into it, and that gives you an opportunity.
Will we talk Celtic now?
It's a brilliant place to go and play as well.
Absolutely.
The away tie. That's a stadium you want to go and play in the atmosphere. They're right on top of you.
Are they? Yeah,
very
right
much
on
like
top.
Tynecastle.
Yep.
So that's one that the players, first and foremost, you've got the one at Ibrox, but that's one of the games you should be looking forward to.
For Celtic fans, Lager Bilk is in town. In fact, he's got the Celtic strip on, waiting for the final press release to come out from Celtic any moment, we would imagine. And the news that's on Record Sport, they say exclusive, that Brendan Rodgers and the recruitment team, they're speaking with Hatate and also with Abada to sign. Obviously not the recruitment team, it'll be the chief exec.
But it's so important.
Michael Nicholson.
You want to keep your best players. You want to see what their thoughts are. You know, you've given a couple of other boys 4-year deals and whatever, Paul, and these players look at it no matter what, and then it's up to them, and if they make that commitment, because then Celtic know what they're thinking, and they're not a pressure on it. It's not as if you're saying it to them with 2 or 3 months of their contract where they're really coming out of it, because the last year means nothing really, because if they held on for 6 months to Christmas, they're away for nothing. You know, so you're as well doing that 2 years in advance.
Next up, a player that you know well, Peter. Let's hear from Matt O'Reilly. He's been speaking today, and about how his role had maybe slightly changed this season, or has it?
Yeah, just tactically, it's just slightly different within our midfield structure. Also, with Kyogo coming a bit deeper at times, depending on how much pressure's on the ball. For me personally, I'm probably slightly more involved at times in the build-up aspect. with obviously that licence to get forward as well. So I've probably got a little bit more freedom to kind of go down and up, which I enjoy doing because I quite like seeing the play develop and kind of reading the play, and I can kind of pick my moment to, arrive in the box or maybe arrive in our defensive box as well to help out there. So yeah.
Is it a good start, his
I
form?
don't think anything's changed massively, to be honest. Maybe I feel, slightly better from a mental perspective, which always helps. Feeling really good in general. Yeah, we've got a slightly new style. Maybe my role changed slightly, but nothing too crazy. I think I've just got into the right positions and stayed pretty calm. I think that's what it's come down to.
Peter, Matt O'Reilly, 2023 style. What do you think under Brendan Rodgers?
There's a flexibility about it, which is slightly different. You're talking about Kyogo, and listen, as I said to you, I like him going the other way more than dropping in, because I don't think that's his strength genuinely. But I know he comes a little bit shorter. I've noticed that in the games, and what that means then is the midfielder's got to make the run into that space beyond, with Kyogo trying to drag them out. I just think when he's on the back line, it gives you that space anyway. Matt's not really changed that much, because his last season at MK Dons, he was playing a similar role. He came to Celtic at the start, and that was the role he was having. He's getting in the box, having a lot of chances. And listen, if he changes, he doesn't get more goals and more assists, it means he's done remarkably well, because if you look at his stats over the last 2 seasons, it's been exceptional. And it just seems as if he's getting that form, and he's playing in the position last year, which he had to adjust. He's got a little bit of criticism. He had to adjust his position because Callum was out for a period of time. So the wee thing about Kyogo coming shorter, as I say, I'm not great on that, because I love him on the back line, and I love a striker who stretches, and he does it fantastically well. And I don't think that's a strength of his, coming and linking. I think he likes to go on, pass me, and my final touch is putting the ball in the net. But Matt O'Reilly's a top quality player who can see pictures, he can make passes, and he's getting in areas now that he can score, because if he's inside that box, he's got a wonderful left foot. There is absolutely no doubt of that.
Barry, how do you rate him?
Yeah, he's a good footballer, no doubt about it. It was a calm finish up at Pataudry, where normally you would see players in that position lash at it. He's just side-footed it past the goalkeeper, and it looks to me if he could be an important player for Brendan Rodgers, because again, he was another player didn't know too much about, similar to Celtic's recruitment, that they brought players in from obviously foreign leagues, but obviously Matt O'Reilly came from MK Dons, who were in League One at the time. But he's certainly impressed since he's been up in Scotland.
He's been opening up a little bit today about life at Celtic and how he's approaching
I've
it.
always been settled in Glasgow. I think it's probably more of just a mindful kind of thing when I'm on the pitch. If you're thinking, if your head's somewhere else or it's thinking too much, then naturally you won't be as focused on the game and what you need to do in that given moment. So when I'm in a place which is, calm and clear and just kind of with the flow of things, and I feel good, and I feel like that's where I'm at the moment. That's something I worked on. I've worked on it quite relentlessly as well off the pitch, whether it be meditation or a lot of mindful practices, and so I just try to constantly improve, whether it be as a person and as a footballer as well. So yeah.
Peter, is that part of your game? Was it, the mindfulness side of things which people talk about now?
No.
Barry, you?
No, but I might need to try a bit of meditation. Maybe calm me down a wee bit.
It's working for him, isn't it?
There's quite I see that's come into the game more and more.
Of course.
Yeah.
The meditation side.
Barry touched on it earlier on. Social media.
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing, and it's great if Matt's doing that and he's keeping away from his phone and not doing all these things, because you see so much on there. I know it can be good for certain things, for sure. There's a lot of not so good things, and for young players, especially if you're playing under the spotlight of Celtic Football Club, it could make it a real tough place for you, good and bad, because I say you could get 100 compliments and you get one bad one and you're thinking that's the only one that sticks in your mind. But listen, he seems to be in a good place now. The most important thing for me is, and I've said that about all players, I just think they should focus on one thing, playing well and trying to stay in the team. Everything else takes care of it. Whether it's at your club, they're there, or somebody wants to buy you, the other club will come and tell the club that we're interested in Matt O'Reilly or whatever. Yeah. So all the stories around about, and that's why I talked about agents getting on and saying, oh, this one's interested, that one's in. Listen, just concentrate and playing, and everything else will happen round and about you. And if he continues to do what he's doing anyway, as we spoke about the Rangers players earlier on there, people come and chat the door and say, is Matt O'Reilly available? Oh yeah, he's available, but you've got to pay X, Y and Z for him. And all he can continue to do is perform, score goals, create chances, and he's been doing that exceptionally well. But he knows, unfortunately, the nature of this beast is you've got to do it week in, week out, continuously all the time. And then you've got to go and do it again. And then you've got to go and do it again. And that's the things that these young players have got to understand.
Well, he and his teammates did it on Sunday at Pataudry.
Yeah, because I don't think we came off the pitch, feeling like we played great. But at the same time, I think we were comfortable overall. I mean, they had a bit of pressure within the game, but they never really threatened our goal too much. I think we were quite comfortable, which is positive in terms of that stability throughout the team. I'm not going to speak too much on the rest of the teams in the league, but I think we're in a good place. Yeah.
In a good place. He thinks there's constant improvement and room for improvement.
I just think it's about constantly wanting to improve, both individually and as a team, collectively. We've obviously got other competitions like the Champions League, which we'd like to improve on from last season, albeit our performances were probably pretty good. Where we finished in the group wasn't. So I think, really making our mark in Europe is a target for everybody. But at the same time, we still want to be as successful as possible in Scotland. So that'll be the aim.
Barry, it's the benchmark, isn't it, for Celtic?
Yeah, in terms of Sunday, it wasn't their best performance, but you've got to give Aberdeen credit. Barry's team, I thought he set them up pretty well, and I was impressed with Aberdeen. But again, Celtic found a way when they're 2-1. It's on a knife edge, and a bit of quality. It was Yen on the left hand side, good bit of skill, cuts it back, and obviously a cool, calm and collected finish by Mattarelli. But for me, the difference, I was watching them. Sometimes when you're watching games, you get carried away with watching the ball. Kyogo's movements, his movement is frightening. What a find he's been.
It just gives you a problem, and that's why I say I like him further up the pitch, because on that last line he sort of plays that half a yard offside, then he comes on to play, then he's away again. And his runs are like old school. We talk about making the bent run and whatever, which is not a normal trait now because you're up there on your own. But he does it exceptionally well and ends up in between centre backs and full backs, or in between two centre backs. And he just wants that final touch, and he's desperate to score. And what a great thing that is. But even in that game, obviously David Turnbull maybe never had his best game, but he's done exceptionally well. But Hatate came on and then brought a bit of control to it, and unfortunately get the injury. So he was looking a wee bit more like himself. So maybe Brendan's obviously knows more than us. He's looked at him, maybe thought, well, listen, he needs a wee bit of a shake here. There's been a lot going on in the summer, there's a lot of change and whatever.
The body language seemed a bit different.
Yeah, well, everybody was saying that because you want to play, of course. Yeah. Everybody's disappointed when you don't play, but at the end of the day, the performances then have got to come up. And I think, to be fair to him, I think in the games, sometimes he's sort of playing as near enough a number 10. And I didn't think that's his game. That was slightly changed a little bit, and I think he's one that likes to be the game of being in front of him and seeing the passes and able to pick the passes, because he's more than capable of doing that. So sometimes you've got to look at the situation that the boys have put themselves into.
Kyogo must be a centre half's worst nightmare. Honestly, they must come up against him and think, oh, here we go. And we've spoke about him. I think he can go at the next level.
Really?
Kyogo. Yeah, I says he could go down and play in the Premier League. I think he could go to one of the top ones.
Wow.
I do.
Oh, he's more than capable of that, because he's more powerful than you think. You watch him and you
he's
see him
all-round game.
Yeah, he's everything. He can take somebody kicking him. He's not frightened of centre halves, and he's, as you say, sometimes he's too nice. He's tapping them and making sure that, are you okay? I've just kicked you there and all that.
I think he does, and then he bows and helps him and
helps him
smiles,
back up. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
But it's great. But he's like a little assassin in there, but he wants to score.
How many goals this season, Peter? Going to the
Really
news
surprised me if it's 30 again. Paul Roon about that.
Any advance on 30, Barry?
He might not be here.
Easy.
I've just signed him. What, a 4-year deal was it, Peter? Yeah, just signed him.
Listen, they'll get the reason why they've signed him on a 4-year contract is because Celtic know. They know that
that's what they should do.
We're going to take a break for the news, then we're back with Peter and Barry next.